Charlie Gasparino, you've been working the phones all day on this one.
Trump and like his sort of like all these follow-on guys like Scaramucci and all those guys, they're all like so suit happy. They always everything is a lawsuit. Okay, you don't like what someone says about you here. Well, I'm going to sue you. You don't like this, sue this guy. Be real clear out there. If you file a frivolous lawsuit, you can be sued back. And by the way, your lawyer could be sued for certifying the frivolous lawsuit. So just be real clear here. And I will tell you, if you're going to sue Brian Ross over this would be a very, very, very frivolous lawsuit. Let's just be real clear. I just want to disclose a few things. I know Brian, acquaintance of Brian Ross, made his mistakes. We all make mistakes as reporters. He's had some great scoops. He had some mistakes. That's like par for the course, by the way, with reporting. It's not an exact science. His mistake last week was pretty bad. It was like suggesting that the president was in imminent danger of being essentially ratted out by Mike Flynn in part of his plea agreement. We understand the imminency of that is not accurate, okay? Now, here's what you would have to prove, and that's why the market sold off. If he's going to be imminently, if Flynn is imminent in the sense going to testify against Trump, that's an existential threat to the presidency. It's obviously someone else in between Trump, so it's not an existential threat, so the market came back. Here's what you would have to prove to bring a suit against Brian Ross. You would have to prove that he knowingly issued a false report, and in doing that, he either helped benefit himself through shorting the market somehow, shorting Dow futures or whatever, but shorting stocks, or have a family member or someone he's friends with short the stocks for him or for themselves. So it's a two-pronged process, essentially, that he manipulated the markets by basically knowing he falsely reported something and then literally traded off it. It's kind of grayish if he didn't know he was manipulating if he didn't know it was false and traded off it. I don't know if that's necessarily illegal. It may not be ethical. It's probably unethical based on ABC's code of conduct, but that's what you would have to prove to get this guy on one of these charges, which would be he would be investigated by the SEC and he would face shareholder losses. Listen, I called him just to cover my rear end here. I had my producer Brian Schwartz call him up. They did not get back to us. No, they said they had no comment. I should point out. It's highly unlikely that he's that crazy to do something like that.
Their actions speak loudly. They have suspended him. They've treated it very swiftly and seriously. And ABC News has handled this. It was a mistake. It doesn't make it okay. But if you're an investor, there are some investors, folks, who actually made money when the market dropped.
Yeah, I would say this, and I said this on Cavuto's show a lot when it was happening, because I was very dubious about this story for a lot of reasons. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that a national security advisor talks to the Russians. I don't think that's like, put a bullet through the guy's head. I mean, it's like for the markets to sell off on that is a whole other reason. I was very dubious. And I also know how they do these cases. They don't essentially go for Trump immediately. They go, or the target immediately. Remember, this is how they went after Steve Cohen. You go after the people around them. You bring it in like rings, and then you squeeze. And then you either have the evidence against the main target, which was Steve Cohen, or Trump. Steve Cohen, as you know, did not get indicted. So they didn't have the evidence. Not all these cases work out where you get the main target. And Trump may not be in any existential have any existential problems. That doesn't mean the people around him, like Jared Kushner, possibly may have an issue. But I will say this again: don't trade off these stupid headlines. Remember who's doing the trading. Stock traders, when there's a few human beings out there, they literally press off headlines and algorithms. There's not a lot of thought going into this. Be an investor, not a trader. And by the way, if you think about bringing a suit, you might get sued back.
Anybody who watched 60 Minutes last night, they did a whole history of 60 Minutes, and they pointed out where they had made mistakes and gotten things wrong. We guarantee you made a mistake, but it's just intent if there's nefarious.
Just so you know, the stakes, though, are big here. We have a president that's in a lot of, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Charlie, thank you.
Got to get your story right.
Thank you very much.
I try.